The king never who fell. Vincent Moretti did not rule Chicago by force alone. He ruled it by memory. At 60, the ruthless mafia king was paralyzed, until the janitor whispered 3 words. -2, his name still closed doors and opened graves. He had survived 3 internal wars, 2 federal offensives, and betrayal that ended with 6 men buried beneath a condemned warehouse. His voice was rarely raised. It didn't need to be. Judges returned his calls. Politicians avoided his gaze. Men who carried guns for a living lowered their eyes when he entered a room. Vincent lived in a fortified estate overlooking Lake Michigan, surrounded by loyalty built from fear, favors, and blood. Every corridor echoed with history. Every room had witnessed decisions that reshaped the city's underworld. Then one winter morning, the king fell. It happened in his private study. No warning, no witnesses, just a sudden collapse as his pen slipped from his hand. The stroke was catastrophic. When Vincent woke, half his body refused to move. His speech was broken into useless sounds. Doctors said his mind was intact, but trapped. A king who could not command was a king already being replaced. And Chicago felt it immediately. Silence after power. Recovery was slow, humiliating, and public, despite every effort to hide it. Machines filled Vincent's room. Tubes replaced authority. Nurses spoke to him like he was already gone. His men stopped visiting. Within weeks, whispers crept through the organization. Capos argued behind closed doors. Old alliances grew hesitant. Rivals sensed weakness. A silent king was a dangerous liability. Vincent was moved to a secluded wing of the estate, away from meetings and decisions. The room overlooked the lake, but the view offered no comfort. He could see the city he built, but could not reach it. Doctors explained exercises. Therapists encouraged patience. Patience had never been Vincent's strength. Each night, he lay awake, listening to the distant hum of activity elsewhere in the house. Plans were being made without him. Orders issued without his consent. The throne was empty. And in the underworld, empty thrones never stay that way for long. The invisible man, Elias Romano, had worked in the estate for 7 years. He cleaned floors, wiped walls, emptied trash. Middle-aged, thin, quiet. He wore the same gray uniform every day and never spoke unless spoken to. To the guards, Elias was invisible. No one asked where he came from. No one noticed when he arrived. No one remembered seeing him leave. Every morning at exactly 6:30, Elias cleaned Vincent's room. He worked silently, efficiently. He never stared, never pitted, never spoke at Vincent like others did. Vincent noticed that. Most people avoided his eyes. Elias met them briefly, calmly, then returned to work. One morning, as snow tapped softly against a window, Elias paused beside Vincent's bed, longer than usual. He leaned in slightly and whispered, so quietly the machines didn't react. "You're not finished." Vincent felt it before he understood it. A flicker, a movement deep inside his fingers. Elias straightened, finished cleaning, and left the room without another word. Vincent lay frozen, but something ancient had been disturbed. The first twitch. That night, Vincent tried to move his hand. Nothing happened, but his mind wouldn't rest. The janitor's voice replayed again and again, not hopeful, not emotional, but certain. It sounded like a statement of fact. The next morning, when Elias returned, Vincent forced every ounce of will into his fingers. This time, they moved, barely, just enough. Elias noticed instantly, without reacting. He placed a small notebook and pen on the bedside table. Something no nurse had considered. Something no doctor suggested. Then he leaned in again. "They think you're done," Elias whispered. "Let them." Vincent's heartbeat accelerated. Outside the room, tensions intensified. One capo, Marco Bellini, began demanding operational control. Another secretly contacted a rival family. The empire was fracturing, and only a janitor seemed to know. 3 words of truth. 3 days later, Elias arrived early. He locked the door. No one had done that since Vincent fell. He leaned close and whispered 3 words that cut through the silence like a blade. "Bellini betrayed you. Vincent's eyes widened. His heart pounded violently. "They're moving tonight," Elias continued calmly. "Accounts, weapons. Your name dies tomorrow." Then he unlocked the door, picked up his mop, and vanished down the corridor. Vincent lay helpless, but now armed with truth. For the first time since the stroke, the king began planning. The language of the paralyzed. Vincent needed a voice without sound. The notebook Elias left became his only weapon. It took hours to force his fingers into motion, each letter carved through pain and exhaustion. By nightfall, he managed 3 crooked words. "Who are you?" The effort left him drenched in sweat. The next morning, Elias read the page without surprise. "Someone who owes you nothing," he whispered, "and everything." That was all. Later that day, Frank DeLuca visited. He spoke carefully, slowly, like one speaks to a man already buried. Vincent blinked once. Frank paused. 2 blinks followed. It was an old code, used decades earlier during prison visits, when microphones were everywhere. Frank's face drained of color. That night, without alerting anyone, Frank froze Bellini's access to 3 offshore accounts. No confrontation. No noise. Just a quiet adjustment. The first move had been made. Shadows noticed shadows. Subtle dot. Changes rippled through the estate. Files went missing. Meetings were delayed. A weapons shipment arrived incomplete. No explanation, no witnesses. Security footage showed Elias cleaning near restricted rooms, but never entering them. Still, things vanished. Guard began noticing the janitor not because he acted strangely, but because trouble followed his path. One guard reported him. Elias was summoned. He stood calmly before Frank and 2 armed men. "I clean floors," Elias said evenly. "Dirt moves. So do men." Frank studied him for a long moment, then dismissed him. That night, the guard who reported Elias was found dead in his car. Overdose. Clean. No struggle. Vincent watched the news report in silence. For the first time, he felt fear, not betrayal, but a man who moved unseen through his kingdom. Blood, without gunfire. Bellini made his move quietly. He scheduled a private dinner with a rival family. Confident Vincent was nothing more than a breathing relic. An hour before the meeting, the restaurant exploded. A gas leak, the paper said. Bellini arrived late and lived. That was the message. Fear lasts longer than death. When Elias returned to Vincent's room, he whispered, "Don't kill a man until he understands why." Vincent wrote 1 word. "Why?" Elias paused. "Because I watched my father die under one of your orders," he said. "And because you deserve to remember." Vincent closed his eyes. Regret was a luxury he had never allowed himself. A king moves an inch. Vincent moved his arm for the first time. Only an inch, but enough. Doctors called it progress. A miracle. The capos called it problem. Meetings resumed, short, controlled, silent. Vincent listened. His pen moved. Elias watched from corners, invisible again. Bellini grew nervous. When Vincent finally spoke, 1 broken word, the room froze. "Stay." Everyone obeyed. The king was not dead. He was waiting. The whisper of history. Vincent studied Elias closely now. Scars on his hands. The way he read rooms instantly. How he knew who carried weapons and who lied poorly. One night, Vincent wrote, "Who are you really?" Elias leaned close. "Someone you erased," he whispered, "and someone who learned." Memories Vincent had buried surfaced. The family silenced decades earlier. A boy spared because he was harmless. Vincent's fingers trembled. Elias was not a pawn. He was a storm that had learned patience. Bellini's arrogance. Bellini believed he was winning. He bragged openly. He left devices unlocked. He spoke too freely. Elias listened. A message intended for a federal judge was intercepted. Not through hacking, but observation. Bellini's arrogance did the work. Elias whispered the details to Vincent. "They move tonight," he said. "Let's remind them who built the city." Vincent wrote 3 words. "Make them regret." The first strike. That night, Vincent acted. Orders flowed silently through codes and gestures. A shipment seized, a lieutenant detained. Bellini's routes collapsed one by one. No gunfire. By morning, the underworld murmured. Something violent had happened, but no one saw it. Vincent's empire hadn't lost a step. It had sharpened. Trust his blood. Bellini laughed until his accounts froze, until his men vanished, until allies stopped answering calls. Elias moved unseen through the chaos, feeding misinformation, redirecting fear. Vincent watched calmly. Trust, he realized, was built the same way as fear. Slowly and permanently. The turning point. Bellini tried one last strike, an ambush near the docks. Vincent anticipated it. The trap closed silently. By dawn, Bellini stood alone. His empire gone. His name poisoned. The king stands again. Vincent walked, slowly, into the warehouse. Bellini's bravado shattered. "You thought I was finished," Vincent said. His pen wrote 3 final words. "You die alone." Bellini never left alive. Chicago understood. The king had returned. After the fall, Bellini's death did not bring celebration. It brought silence. Chicago's underworld recalibrated overnight. Routes reopened cautiously. Clubs resumed business without music for days. Men spoke in lowered voices, unsure who was listening. Vincent Moretti watched it all from his study. His body was still imperfect. His hands still trembled. But his mind was sharper than it had been in years. Power had returned, not loudly, but completely. Frank DeLuca handled communications, filtering information carefully. Loyalty tests were conducted quietly. Those who hesitated were removed without spectacle. Vincent approved everything with a pen. No speeches, no threats, just decisions. Yet something unsettled him. Elias Romano remained, not asking for reward, not demanding position, still cleaning floors, still invisible. The most dangerous man in the house behaved as though nothing had changed. Vincent realized then Bellini had been a symptom. Elias was something else entirely. The debt that never dies. Vincent wrote, late into the night now. Lists, names, routes, and one question that returned again and again. Why did you stay? Elias read it the next morning. Because killing you would have been easy, he said quietly. Living with the truth wasn't. Vincent absorbed that in silence. Elias continued, voice controlled. I wanted you awake when you understood what you built, what it cost. Vincent closed his eyes. For decades, he had justified everything as survival, necessary cruelty, strategic loss. Elias was proof that some losses never stayed buried. The debt between them wasn't financial. It was moral, and it could never be paid in full. A king's limits. Vincent attempted to reclaim full control. Meetings increased. Operations expanded. Old territories were reclaimed aggressively. Elias watched. Then shipments vanished again. Only the excessive ones. Only the reckless ones. No blood. No warnings. Just correction. Frank was furious. He's undermining you. Vincent raised a hand. No, he said slowly. He's restraining me. The room went quiet. For the first time, Vincent understood the truth. Elias was not challenging his authority. He was shaping it. The message without a voice. One evening, Vincent found a folded note inside his notebook. 3 words. Balance must exist. No signature. No threat. Vincent stared at it for a long time. Power without restraint had nearly destroyed everything. The stroke. Bellini. The rot. Elias was not his enemy. He was his consequence. The decision. Vincent could end this. He still had the reach, the loyalty, the resources. But ending Elias meant returning to the man he had been. Instead, Vincent scaled back. He cut excess operations, reduced bloodshed, tightened discipline. The empire shrank but stabilized. Profits fell slightly. Control increased immensely. Chicago adjusted, and peace, real peace, settled in. The space between them. Elias began disappearing for days at a time. Then weeks. Operations remained smooth, cleaner. Vincent realized Elias had stopped interfering. The lesson had been delivered. The test passed. The final visit. Snow fell again over Lake Michigan. Vincent sat alone when Elias appeared in the doorway. No guards. No fear. You learned, Elias said. Vincent nodded. His pen wrote 3 words. You are free. Elias smiled faintly. So are you, he replied. Then he turned and walked away. A quiet throne. Months passed. Vincent's recovery plateaued, but his clarity deepened. Chicago remained but it no longer consumed him. Violence declined. Loyalty strengthened. Fear became respect. What remains? Vincent often thought of the boys spared decades ago. He wondered how many ghosts he had created, and how many had survived long enough to return. The king who understood. Vincent Moretti ruled again, not as a king who never fell, but as a king who learned what falling revealed. Power was fragile. Silence was strength. And some whispers could resurrect a man or remake him entirely. Chicago slept uneasily. Its king watched, and this time he listened.